Okay, Programming 11, we're going to try and find out about how to make some bricks. This is actually going to be fairly complicated. The biggest challenge is going to be making it so that we will have many bricks, but we don't have to have many variables and many if statements. Instead, we're going to use loops to automate the drawing and planning out of the layout of the bricks. We're also going to use a loop to make it so that we can automatically draw and check the collisions with the bricks and the ball. So instead of writing, 50 variables and 50 if statements and 50 circles for 50 bricks, we're going to make two variables technically, but there'll be special variables that will hold many values. We'll make, one circle and one if statement that we will loop and change the values of to make it so that we can, automate this brick system. So right now in this project I have no bricks. We are brickless, and I do have all these other aspects working. So I got a paddle, I'm controlling with the keyboard, there's walls, and the ball moves and bounces off the paddle. So if you have all that working, you're good to start the new part of the project. So we're going to be making our bricks. So I'll just kind of show you where we are in the project. Yours might look a little different than mine, so you'll have to adapt, and this will probably help you to adapt. So I have my main tab. It's got all the global variables. Here's what my ball variables are, and the speed. And then here's the paddle variables. And I got my setup, initializing things. Here's my mode framework, and mostly you just need to know what's in the game. Here's my setup here. I have the paddle code is all in one section, and then the ball code is in another section, including the bouncing for the ball. I have the bouncing off of the paddle, and I have the bouncing off of the walls. I actually have the top and the bottom wall working, even though eventually we'll turn that off because oh, actually no, sorry. This is the bottom. So I don't want to bounce off the bottom eventually, but for now, for testing the game, it's kind of annoying if I lose the ball. So I'm going to keep it on for now. We'll take that away later on and make some scoring or life reducing code when that happens. Okay. So let's make some bricks. I have a section right here ready to draw some bricks. So I don't want to have to make a whole bunch of x and y variables. You could imagine a way of doing that, right? You could say, you can make a whole bunch of x1, x2, x3, x4, x5 for all my different bricks. But yeah, that's gonna be tiring and inefficient and a waste of our time. We wanna be more efficient, and the way we're gonna do that is by using special variables called arrays. An array is kind of like a book of numbers. I mean, it contain anything, but just like a variable can contain one number, an array contain many numbers, and you can store them on different pages, which each have a page number associated with them. So you can kind of flip through the pages to look at the next number. I'll show you what they look like. So I'm going to go to the main tab and up to the top, very, very top. I'm going to put in my brick variables here. And I'm gonna, if this was an old project, I would say int, x1, x2, x3, all the way to like x50. And I have to make the y variables too. That's 100 variables. No good. Don't want that. Don't want that. So instead, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make an int array called x. And these are the square brackets here. It's the same key as your brace on your keyboard, but you don't press shift. And this is going to make sort of a book of integers where you can store a number on each different page, and you can flip through the pages to get to different numbers. But I can just call it always x, and I can give x and then the page number. We'll see what that looks like in a second. I'm also going to make an array or a book, you can think of it, of y values. And again, on each page, I can store an int. You could actually make other kinds of arrays, and we'll see that later on. But this is an int array, a book of ints. I also need like a size. So I want to make I just need a regular int because they're all the same size. I'll call it brick diameter, brick D. And I think that's probably all I want to do for now. So now I'm going to go down to the setup. This is sort of stage one here. This is like, I'm going to make these this array of variables. Next step is we're going to go ahead and build the array. It's a little bit different. I'll go down. I'll do this at the very top of my setup so that you don't have trouble seeing where I'm at. You can organize this whatever makes sense for your project. but I'm putting mine here. So I'm going to make my arrays and my diameter. So for a diameter, good old, or you can just say brick d equals whatever it is you want, 50, we'll say. But for an array, before you can start writing down numbers on the different pages, you have to tell processing how many pages are going to be in your book. And the way to do that is like this. I can say I'll start at x equals new int array, and inside of the square brackets you could put the page number. And I'm just going to put 3 for now. We're going to make 3 bricks just to be fairly conservative to start off with. We don't want to start with 50 because it'll be hard to test. I'll do the same thing for our y coordinates. So basically this makes it possible for x to hold 3 different values, and y can hold 3 different values. So that'll correspond to our first, second, and third brick. Okay, and then we'll see how we can flip the page in a minute. That's a good start. And now I guess we'll do it right now. Actually, we'll flip to different pages on the book. So this is how you build your arrays, and they're ready to use now. Next step is for us to give it some values. So we want to write things down in this book. So this is how you write things down in a normal int variable. So in an int array, you would say x, and then you would give the page number in square brackets. The first page in an array always starts at 0. So it's going to be a little confusing because the first thing is at page 0. The second thing is on page 1. That's a little bit unintuitive, but I think you'll get used to it as we go. So we're going to say on page 0 in our x variable, let's store the coordinates for our first brick. So 100. Whoop. And then the y coordinate for that brick will also be on page 0. We'll make it 100. So that's the first brick. Brick 0. For brick 1, we can just flip the page to say, hey, x1 equals, we'll say 400. Y is 100. So that's for brick 1. We'll store those on page 1. See how the variable now has a sort of page number? We don't have to declare multiple x's and y's. We just say we have a book of x's, flip to page 0 to get this one, flip to page 1 to get this one, and so on. I'll also put in the third one because we're supposed to do 3, just as an example. 700, y 700. Okay, so that's me setting up my coordinates and writing them in a book. If you're looking at this and you're kind of skeptical about its value because you still see a lot of work, I want to let you know that this isn't going to be the final way we do things. This is mostly for an example. I think it's a good example to see how we can access these numbers, but eventually we're going to replace this with a while loop that's going to automatically generate these. But even now, even just the way we're doing things right now, it's still pretty good because if we have to add in 20 more bricks or something, we still can just keep these variables. We don't have to add in new variables. We just would have to give our variable or our arrays more pages. We could just type in a new number here to tell us how many ints we want. So even just as it is now, it's still better, but it's going to get even more better down the road. So I'm going to stop the video here. The next video, we're going to go to the game function, and we're actually going to show these bricks. We're going to see how we can look up the coordinates in the book and draw them. Okay, so that's the end of this video. We'll see you in the next one.